Hi there, folks. My name is NovaWrap and I am here to have a talk to you about the latest trailer that just dropped a few hours ago for the upcoming Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. So we have known it has been coming for a little while. We got the first trailer for it about 11 months ago, so it's almost a year ago now. And there was quite a bit of anticipation in the flight simulation community that we would be seeing the first sort of like announcement, or not first announcement, but the next sort of announcement of the features and that kind of stuff, as well as the release date, will be coming up at the upcoming Flight Sim Expo in Las Vegas in a couple of weeks. But obviously, that didn't happen. That happened. Instead, we got the release as part of the Xbox Showcase, which is actually makes a lot of sense when you realize that Microsoft Flight Simulator is here for a wider audience, not just us hardcore simmers. But that's a discussion probably for another time. But instead, though, today we're going to be having a go through. We're going to go through the video as it, the trailer as it was released. I'm going to go through it with you, and I'm going to have a talk to you about my thoughts and impressions on it, because how much did we really learn in this trailer that we didn't already know from the first trailer that we got a year ago? So let's have a look at the trailer and watch it together and see what I think about it. All right, so let's switch over. So let's play it now. So the first thing to notice here about this is that you've got some atmospheric effects. So that's something that was been sort of hinted at and teased at, that we're going to be getting some improvements in the atmosphere and the atmospheric effects. And you can actually see that through the low-lying sort of mist and clouds at sunrise here during this bit of a clip here. So that is something that we've sort of seen here, we've heard hinted at, but it's actually now we can see it in sim. As we can see, all of this was captured in a current live build of the sim, which means to say that this sim is very far along. Given the fact that it is based on the current edition of MSFS and it is just simply the next iteration of it, that's hardly surprising, but it is good to see, that is something that is new compared to what we had last year. I noticed they've changed it to Azure AI now. Okay, now this is actually something that is new, and I want to highlight that we're talking about where it says Red Bull Air Race. So previously in the first trailer that we saw, it said Air Racing, just fairly, very bog standard, fairly generic. This is an interesting shift from that, because now we actually see a brand associated with it. Now, what's interesting, though, about the fact that it's Red Bull Air Race is the fact that Red Bull Air Race technically doesn't exist anymore. What was once known as Red Bull Air Race has since moved on and become just a generic sort of air racing circuit globally, and it is not actually Red Bull Air Race anymore. So this is interesting. Now, what does that mean for us as simmers? Most likely it means that the aircraft that will be released as part of it will have been licensed from Red Bull from when they were actually there as part, when it was still Red Bull Air Racing. This, in some ways, is also a nod back to the legacy and the history of Microsoft Flight Simulator, with the fact that FSX Acceleration Pack had the air racing component to it, and it was Red Bull Air Racing back then. So, in some ways, this is a bit of a nod to that, but at the same time, it does make a interesting fact of us moving forward looking at this one. All right, and apparently First Officer Fluff has things to say with the fact that I'm recording this late at night. Anyway, all right, let's keep going. So we've got, it looks like to be, I'm guessing that looks like an MXS aircraft in a few different color schemes, and these are all licensed schemes. So these are all schemes that were worn by actual competitors during the air race season. So again, that leads to the licensing side of it. But again, interesting that they chose to go with Red Bull, but think of it in terms of the wider audience that may not necessarily spend a lot of time in Flight Simulator, who might still be new to Flight Simulator. This is something that you probably that they are going to pay more attention to. Okay, so we've got 707, so we've got an A330 here. Now, This isn't so much new. So the aircraft itself, that's new. So the A330 being announced as being a default aircraft. Now this potentially leads us to Aerosoft's, long delayed release of the A330 for Microsoft Flight Simulator. This would tend to suggest that therefore the reason why it has been delayed coming to us using the current sim is because they've become a first party dev for developing aircraft for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. Now, what that means on the plus side is that means that's going to be one of the default aircraft. I'm going to take a stab in the dark and say that they're going to do much like what they did with the initial release, and they're going to offer at least 2 or 3 editions of it. And this aircraft is going to be in the premium tier edition of that one. But again, if it's coming from Aerosoft, which I'm going to take a stab in the dark and say it would either be a Aerosoft or an AnyBuilds product. And given the fact that Aerosoft have announced that they were doing an A330 and then suddenly everything went very, very quiet, it would pretty much guarantee that it's going to be theirs. But the other part that's not new is you walking out to the tarmac. Now, given the fact that this is captured from in-sim footage, that tends to reinforce. It doesn't confirm and it doesn't really announce anything new, but it reinforces the idea that you have more first-person abilities in this title now doing things on the ground, of actually walking out to flight line. What does that mean? Will we be able to do walkarounds of the aircraft? I don't know, but there is precedence for this. So Microsoft Flight, the unacknowledged illegitimate child, or of the Microsoft Flight Simulator franchise, it had from the get-go a dedicated in-person mode where you got out of your aircraft and you walked around the world. So this is something that's interesting, and it gets reinforced here with an actual model, and we actually see higher fidelity models of the ground crew and of the humans actually rendered in the sim. We see that throughout this video. So we've got an A330 with GE engines, detailed RPF tags, moving possibly in the wind. Okay, so this is probably a new thing, and now I want to stress here that this is going to be showing off just the base sim. This is not going to be showing off any third-party add-ons like we've seen in some other Microsoft Flight Simulator videos that have released post-release of MSFS. This is a trailer for 2024, which means that they are showing off what is in the base game, because this is especially important for the fact that this is covering Xbox users as well as PC users. So this isn't GSX that we're looking at. Excuse me. This is natively built into the sim. Excuse me. So what we're seeing here is we're seeing animated passengers actually boarding the aircraft, walking down the jetways. So which indicates that we've got a lot of revamping in terms of AI. Now, will this be something that is available to everybody and available at all airports, or is it only going to be available in certain missions, in certain career types, in certain game modes? Don't know yet. But the fact that it's there is a pretty big deal. Now, yes, I know there are third-party add-ons that do this at the moment, but this means it's going to be supported natively in the sim. Also, can I just say that model and the lighting look absolutely incredible. They really do. All right. So we had a tablet there, which I believe we got included with the A320neo V2. So, and of course, plenty of third-party aircraft have tablets in their models now to control various functions. But we've now got proof that a first-party aircraft has that included now as well. Okay, so this for me, initially, I actually thought this might have been the PC-12. It looks like it's the TBM 850 that comes with default. That color scheme is 100% supposed to represent the Royal Flying Doctor Service of Australia. I know because I work with them, doing as a licensed as a licensed developer with the Royal Flying Doctor Service, reproducing their liveries and selling them for charity to support their work. That is 100% based on their color scheme, but I noticed that it's given a generic sort of medical evacuation thing, and why is it flying with an American registration in Australia? They really should have put a VH registration on that. Anyway, moving on. that is the desert strip that is just in front of Uluru, by the way, having been there myself. Now, what does this show us? Now, this again, this isn't new. This part here, though, is not new. We saw this in the first release of the fact that it is it would be very mission orientated. There will be, air ambulance missions, fire missions, search and rescue missions. We saw all that in the first trailer. So this itself is not new. The color scheme, the livery is new, and seeing it out in the world, that's new. But the actual idea of this being new, it's not. It is very much, this is what it was. Now, having said that, the animated people that are included, the models that are there, I'm looking at the medic bag down in the corner here. This stuff all looks pretty solid, reminiscent very much of Parallel 42's Camp Out, but these are interactive elements that we can see, built into this mission. Now, I'm just going to go back for a couple of seconds here because I want to show this. So this part here, the fact that it actually is animated. So let's just watch that again. So you can actually see them walking the patient to the aircraft. So that's very, very new. So seeing the actual interactivity of the scenery is something that has not really been a first-party thing. We have seen it from third-party devs for MSFS, but we have not seen it as part of the base sim. It is now part of the base sim, and that's pretty exciting. Also, far more detailed into internals of the aircraft. Okay, so this is the new part that we saw here. So this is absolutely new. Aerial advertising, so actually doing, towing messages, towing banners in the sky. That is new, and that is really, really fascinating. I'm super curious to see if you can custom write what text appears on there and how that goes for multiplayer, because that is both going to be really cool and an absolute shit show. It absolutely will. So this is going to be fascinating to see if this is something that can be done in multiplayer, or again, if this is going to be mission based. Very much the first trailer that we saw was very much going to be mission-based content. This is no exception. We are seeing mission-based content here again. And how that applies to the open world and being able to do things yourself, we don't know yet. But the fact is that these kind of tools are here. All right, so we got new aircraft. Again, not new information. We saw this in the first trailer with a Cirrus. And again, this is quoting it as VIP charter service. So this is reinforcing the idea of a career mode, of doing jobs and doing businesses, and actually having things to do in the sim, because I think that's something that this sim at its core was always missing. New users, especially users who haven't really flown flight simulators before, who might not be familiar with some of the open world ideas, are sort of like, you look at all the videos and all the streamers, all the YouTubers and content creators that got hold of the flight simulator for the first time when it first released back in 2020. They played it for a week, couple of days to a week, where they jumped in an airplane. They without fail, they all jumped in an airplane. Usually the 747. They flew over their house, they crashed into their house, and then they literally looked around and went, "Now what?" Now, for many of us who've been flying for many times, we do it for the joy of aviation, for the love of just virtual flying. For many of us, whether it be something that because we can't do it in real life for various reasons, or just simply because we want to develop it and use it as something to keep our currency up, which is something you can do. So giving this as more mission orientated is designed to open this up further to people to say, hey, there are things for you to do, jobs for you to do, tasks for you to do. Now, at the moment, we don't have that in the base sim. We do kind of have it with the missions and with the bush trips, but the bush trips have been a bit of a disaster. And the mission packs, the missions that were released as part of the 40th anniversary one are hit and miss. So having this kind of thing integrated into the sim, particularly if it's perhaps procedurally generated, like we had previously in Microsoft Flight, that would be awesome. At the moment, of course, in MSFS, we've got NeoFly, we've got Parallel 42 Sky Park, which give us those things. Now, absolutely, I swear by, if anybody who tunes into my live streams, my regular live streams, you know I absolutely swear by Parallel 42 Sky Park, because I love it, because I get to visit all these airports that I absolutely would have visited otherwise. I sort of just pick some jobs and say, okay, let's fly to all these airports that I've never been to before. And that's really kind of fun, something kind of different. Having that built into the sim is really, really cool. So we'll see how that goes. Now, this is new. So this is new. So the helicopter mafia have obviously been involved and got into what is happening with the development of Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, because we now have a new helicopter listed. We have the Robinson R66 turbine. That's super interesting, super exciting to see another native helicopter built into the sim. In this particular version of it, they're showing it an agri version with the crop spraying options, but look at that with the actual interacting with the world. So you're actually seeing the rotor downwash effect that at the moment we don't have that in MSFS. We only have that via third-party utilities, or if a developer custom codes some stuff, but we do not see it interacting with things like the terrain. Something else to note as well is the grass. Is I don't know whether that's grass or actually that's probably a crop of wheat, but actually having, pieces of scenery that interact with the weather. That is something that has sort of been hinted at. I remember I talked with Jorg and I talked with the developer team back in 2019 when we kicked all this off, when this is all sort of, when I went to the initial sort of reveal of this, of Microsoft Flight Simulator, and actually asking, is this something that's going to be there? And they said, and at the time it was told that's what we want to do, but it wasn't going to be guaranteed. Now it looks like it absolutely is. Will we see this outside of missions? Again, we don't know. But the fact is, we can see now very clearly that it is possible and it is available in the sim. Now we've got another confirmation of our search and rescue. So it looks like we've got another new helicopter, which I don't think we saw. Actually, no, I do believe we did see the squirrel in the previous trailer, but now we're seeing it from airlifting from a wrecked ship. We saw a sky crane, which is not new. We saw that in the last one, Airbus A400M. So clearly their business relationship with Airbus is going on, because so far we've seen Airbus helicopters with the squirrel, and we've got the A400M reconfirmed once again. This time, instead of landing in Antarctica, we're landing in a bush strip. Remote cargo operations. So again, this is leading to the idea of being very mission oriented, mission generated. Something that I'm starting to lean towards, again, this part here, so asterisk here, this is speculation, is that I'm thinking that this is going to be a procedurally generated thing where you can actually have missions will just be procedurally generated. Again, there is precedence for this in the past with Microsoft Flight. Microsoft Flight was absolutely groundbreaking in so many levels. It's such a shame that it was killed off. Anyway, putting that to one side for 1 minute. So the idea that this looks like it's going to be procedurally generated. So it's basically there you've got a couple of smoke markers showing off saying, hey, this is the airfield you need to land on, and you bring you into the A400M coming in. Okay, so we've got our firefighting ops, which again is not new. This aircraft itself, again, not new. We saw the ag truck in the previous video. However, what we saw last time is we saw it as a crop sprayer. This is the first time we're seeing it with the floats as the firebombing variant. We haven't seen this variant before. Previously, in the original video, we saw it as a Canadair CL215 water bomber. This is a new water bomber. Does this mean this replaces the Canadair, or this is supplemented to? We don't know yet, because the Canadair doesn't get featured in this video. Okay, we've got the Sky Crane, but again, so this is now the second time we see the S64 Sky Crane. This time, so for any of the Australian viewers, you will know Elvis. This is basically, this is Elvis. You get to fly Elvis. So by the way, this is going to be an absolute hit in Australia, straight up, because you're going to be able to fly Elvis. So this one is now the second time we see this helicopter in now 2 different variants. So we get to see it as a sling loading heavy lift cargo, and now also as a firefighter, both roles that this helicopter fulfills in real life, both now able to complete in sim. So looks like more for bush pilots here. So this scene here is interesting, and this really reminds me of Parallel 42's recent effects add-on, is that in that landing sequence, we actually saw the dirt flying up from the tires of the aircraft as it landed. So we've got bush tires, we've got tundra tires on, and I'm thinking that's still the Cub that we've got at the moment. Okay, so I don't think that's a new aircraft, new livery for it, but not a new aircraft, but a new pilot model. That is a new pilot model that we have not seen previously. So we've seen a bush tire variant, but the biggest part to take away from this one is that the terrain and the world environment now interacts with you and the aircraft. It's not necessarily dependent on. Now, well, it's not necessarily dependent on the aircraft. It might be, I don't know. But seeing this now is that we're actually seeing that as the aircraft's rolling along the grass runway there, we're seeing dirt, we're seeing grass getting actually lifted up and kicked up by the aircraft as it's going along. That's a pretty big deal. Like, especially considering that you see these kind of things normally in first-person shooters, or you see potentially in you see it in DCS, but those are all limited maps. They're limited size, limited maps, limited area. This is the whole world. Does the whole world do this? Guess we'll find out. Okay, the photo mode, kind of cool. The mud and dirt on the tires. Now, a previous shot in a single frame, we see those tires weren't that dirty. So that, again, suggests to me that this dirt acclimation potentially may be dynamic. Now, I'm going to take a stab in the dark and say that the developer has to add in some form of modifier in there and some sort of layer or texture set of layer that actually allows it to build up as time goes on. But the fact that it's appearing is very, very interesting. The photo mode of actually being able to spot wildlife. Now, I know that this is going to sound a bit weird because people are going to be like, oh, why should I be spotting wildlife in a flight sim? And you know what? On first pass, you're probably right. However, this goes to something that myself, Edson from Parallel 42, Sergio from Helisim.com, many people have said that this is so much more than a flight sim. This is so much more than that. There is so much to do. We literally have the entire world. People sort of ridiculed Parallel 42 for releasing the Juice Goose. It is absolutely the future, because I believe that this is much like its predecessor, FSX. FSX was considered, yes, it's at its core, it's heart, it's a flight simulator, but it was a vehicle simulator and a world simulator. And 100%, this is living up to the legacy of that by actually continuing that legacy on to give us those options. So take a photo of the deer. All right, so we have this is another one of our new aircraft. So we've got a hot air balloon. I think we actually did we see hot air balloons in the previous one? I think we might have done actually, but now we have a powered hot air balloon, which is something that I haven't seen before. This is a new aircraft, so it's a eVTOL aircraft that is in experimental stage. I don't believe it's flying, or it might be close to flying. So this is an interesting aircraft. I can't for the life of me remember the name of it right now, but I know I have seen this previously. In fact, I think I actually had seen spoken to a developer that was actually looking at making this a flight sim. So anyway. Coming into Dubai now, this one is new. So we now have a Zeppelin. I'm going to take a stab, and I can say it's possibly a Zeppelin. It might not be a Zeppelin NT, but definitely a Goodyear blimp. All right, so this one here. Again, confirmation that Aerosoft basically all but confirmed that that their Twatter was going to be a default aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. They all but confirmed it about a year ago, because the Twin Otter suddenly disappeared from stores about 18 months. I think it actually must be close to 2 years ago now. Suddenly disappeared from stores, and basically their support for it went to nothing. So in a way, I have a huge problem with how that's been handled. Obviously, because Microsoft reached out to them and said, hey, we want to include this aircraft as a default aircraft in 2024. Cool, no worries. But so that's fine to withdraw it from sale. But the fact that, or everybody who purchased it, hi, basically they just stop support for it, and it is basically unflyable. It's been basically unflyable since not long after release. So that's incredibly disappointing. Is it am I happy to see it back in the sim? Absolutely, because I love the Twotter. The Twotter is one of my favorite airplanes. However, the fact that we had to wait till 2024, or we have to wait till November to be able to see it fly it again, is super freaking annoying. And again, I'd be interested to see what they're going to do potentially for people who already purchase it. I don't know what they can do at this point, because it's kind of a case of buyer beware, and yet another case of do you really own anything? But at least we've got the confirmation now that it is coming back into the sim. Okay, gliding that we've seen before, Calibri we've seen before, Hornet. Okay, let's go back on that one. This one is not new, but at the same time, there is a bit of news about this. So there was confirmation. So obviously we've got the A10 Warthog here on the side. So the Hornet, we obviously know from the fact that we got that as part of the lead up to the 40th anniversary expansion. Plus we've got it as part of the Top Gun Maverick pack. We are getting the A10 Warthog. Again, not new information. We knew that from the last trailer. However, what we do know is the fact that it's now been confirmed that the developer of that aircraft is DC Designs. In case anybody missed the announcement on their social media pages, their part of the NDA has finally been lifted, so they are able to confirm that yes, they were the first party dev that Microsoft turned to in order to develop the A10C Warthog for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. It's going to be a bit weird with the fact that you can't have the fact that the airplane was built around a gun and you can't have the gun in the sim. That's going to be interesting, but we'll see how that goes. So yeah, coming to a sim issue. Now this is interesting. This is new. So the auto gyros, these are new. We have not seen these previously. There's been a couple in development for a while for Microsoft Flight Simulator. I've seen a couple of I think I've seen one get released. Now, what is this auto gyro? Now, if I had to take a stab in the dark, I'm not that familiar with auto gyros, but if I had to take a stab in the dark, I'm going to bet that this is a DTA gyro, which is a French designed auto gyro. Given that it's a French studio, that would not surprise me in the least. So this is available. It's basically an enclosed ultralight trike. So it meets the sports light aircraft certifications in Europe. Has been made since 2017 and is still in production to this day. So from looking at the exteriors and externals, that's the closest one that I could find that fits this design. And as I said, given that Asobo is a French studio, it would not surprise me if this is the aircraft that they've chosen to bring out. But on a side note, from a physics and sort of interactive, the aerodynamics and physics perspective, autogyros are fascinating creatures. So for them to put them in the sim, that really shows they've been doing a lot of work on all of their modeling of aerodynamics in the sim, on how it works on different aircraft, different types of aircraft, whether it be helicopters, aircraft, or now autogyros. So there is although this is just an autogyro, what it shows is the work they've been doing on the flight modeling under the hood. That shows that there is a lot of work has been happening and potentially leads into what updates and what things we are going to see moving forward from aircraft that are designed and models that are designed specifically for 2024 as opposed to 2020. Weather, okay, so hot air ballooning, which we sort of got introduction to before. Now this is an interesting release. So an Optica, Edgeley Optica EA7. This is super interesting because this is an aircraft that honestly is an absolute oddity. We have two payware versions already in existence for Microsoft Flight Simulator of this aircraft. We have one from Orbix, which is a true-to-life, original recreation of the original aircraft. And then we have one from the team over at Got Friends, who chose to do a reimagining of the aircraft if they were, sort of updated with 21st century avionics, and re-engined and stuff like that. So it's interesting that I'm seeing this aircraft here. Now, I'm going to take a stab in the dark and say this is not going to be the, what if version. This would absolutely be the true to life version, which means whose is it? Given the fact that Orbix in the past has done first party, has been a first party developer and released a number of aircraft. They worked on the Caribou, I believe the Caribou was theirs. The Fokker Trimotor is theirs as well. So they've got a proven history of delivering models as being as a first party developer. So I'm going to take a stab in the dark and say this is going to be their model. This would also explain why Orbix's support for the EA7 has gone to absolute shit for the last 18 months. There are several bugs with that software package, which is a shame because I absolutely love flying their Optica. I have it. I remember working with the team there as part of the, when they announced it and when they launched it, we gave a few away on the channel. I absolutely love flying it. I think it's a great aircraft. It features semi-regularly in my review videos of scenery because it is a great aircraft to look out the window for. Having them move on to that, again, I don't know. This is speculation, but my speculation would be that they are the developer behind this version of the Optica. And we've got the Auroras. So I have to wonder... I have to wonder about this. Is Parallel 42, is Parallel 42 giving us sneak peeks of what's coming in 2024? Have they been licensed? Were they working in parallel? We don't know. But we are seeing a lot more improvements in the lighting engine here. The fact that we have Auroras in there now. We've seen improvements in the terrain quality as well. And again, just the general atmospherics. You can see that from looking through this one. And I am pretty comfortable and confident saying that I'm pretty sure that is the Orbix Optica. I'm happy to be proven wrong because again, we don't know, but that looks awfully familiar. So anyway, but that is our trailer for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. So of course, the most important thing that probably for many of us is that this is going to be released on November the 19th, 2024, which by the way is the wrong way to say the date. I absolutely still believe that it should be said as 19th of November. Anyway, that's a conversation for another day. Okay. So what did we learn from that video? So we honestly didn't learn a huge lot. We learned about a couple of new aircraft types. We learned about our auto gyro. We learned about a new helicopter, the Robinson R66. We learned about the new aircraft, the Edgeley Optica EA7. We learned about the Airbus A330 coming to be a base aircraft in the sim. That's realistically all the new stuff that we learned. Everything else was sort of confirmation slash teasers of other things that we already knew. So the confirmation of the fact that this is very much going to be mission orientated, with providing jobs and things to do in the sim. We still don't know whether that these are going to be procedurally generated, whether they're going to be structured missions only. What is it going to be? You do the mission once and then you have to repeat the same mission over and over again, or is it going to, again, as I said, be procedurally generated and give you different airports to go and get the medevacs from? We don't know those things yet. So they are going to be absolutely going to be questions that we're going to be asking, hopefully getting a chance to an opportunity to ask and hear from the team at Asobo and Microsoft coming up at Flight Sim Expo in a couple of weeks' time. So that is my thoughts. Overall, my thoughts are on this one is that it's we've got some great insights. Again, it's very much whetting our appetites. So the biggest and most important thing is that we now have a date. And I have mixed feelings about the date as well. I think it's far enough away that I can see them getting a full release on time. But one of the things that I have always said multiple times about the current Microsoft Flight Simulator is that I felt that it was released too early. I felt that there was the first sort of 2 sim updates absolutely should have been in the sim. They absolutely should have been in the sim. It should have gone through more testing. I understand from a commercial point of view why they released it when they did. Just from a commercial and just a worldwide event point of view, why they released it when they did, I completely understand. But yeah, definitely could have done with some more time at the oven. So this potentially speculates to me and suggests to me that November of 2020 had been their originally intended release date, because that would coincide with this November, being the release of this edition. I think that would track. And honestly, I think if the 2020 had those extra 2.5 months in the oven, then absolutely we would have had we wouldn't have had many of the issues that we saw in the first couple of weeks. So I think that this is, at the end of the day, we saw some new information. There's quite a lot in there actually for tube liner pilots. For those of you who prefer commercial aviation, there's a lot in there for you. But the bigger thing for me is I think there's going to be a wider appeal to this version of the sim, and they're really aiming to that. And again, that goes back to why they announced it and provided this trailer at the Xbox game sort of event, where instead of holding on to it for another 2 weeks to release it at Flight Sim Expo, because at the end of the day, Flight Sim Expo is only there for us who are already well established in the hobby. Xbox Games Showcase is there for everybody. And I think that's the important takeaway. Remember that one. But the important takeaways for this one is that we have a launch date, and we have a couple of new aircraft guarantees, and they are still, But the other important takeaway is that we still have a lot of questions of things that we don't know yet. So yeah, again, looking forward to what the team over at Microsoft and Asobo have to say coming up in Vegas. So there you go. All right, that's my take and my thoughts on a few things. Thanks very much for tuning in for this one. Don't forget, I will be at Flight Sim Expo, so hopefully you'll be heading off there as well. Don't forget that you can register. You can still register. Tickets are still available. If you'd like to visit us, visit the event, and which I highly recommend that you do get. If you get a chance to go to the event in person, I highly recommend it. If you can't join in person, though, they are offering a virtual pass for you to be able to enjoy many of the discounts from all the vendors and the retailers, as well as providing exclusive access to all of the seminars. So hopefully you can tell. There, links in the description down below. All right, folks, thanks very much for watching. Take care, safe skies to all, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.